Welcome to the Backseat Thriver podcast. I'm Christina Johnston.
And I'm Bridget Kostas.
And we really think you guys should listen because we think we're pretty funny.
We are pretty funny.
Yeah.
We're unfiltered. It's real. It's sometimes what you need to hear.
Sometimes what you don't.
But tune in.
Tune in. That was good.
That works.
We made it another week.
We survived.
We survived.
Woohoo.
How you doing, Bridget?
You know what? I have to share this funny story because you know how I always talk about like, oh, I'm so out of shape and I can't do all these things and everything
all your
hurts
ailments.
and my old lady complaints. So yesterday I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to do this. It's going to be great. It was just after the rain. It was gorgeous. Okay, native Arizonan, right? Our only weather historically is sunshine. So I go for my walk and I feel this little sprinkle. I'm like, okay, cool. Oh, that's nice. That's nice and refreshing. And then I feel another sprinkle. And then I turn around and look behind me, and there's this massive rain cloud. It starts thundering. I did not look up before I went out, and it's starting to thunder, and I'm maybe a quarter of a mile from the house by now. And then I realize, oh shit, it's raining. And I look behind me and I see all this rain, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to turn around. I don't want to get stuck in it. So I turn around. And I start walking home, and I know I'm getting ready to walk right into this. And I hit so much rain, and I'm like a half a mile from the house. It's pouring. It's cold. I'm the only one outside in the rain. I was like, oh my God, this is killing me. I'm laughing because I look like an absolute moron.
Oh, yeah.
So needless to say, I'm like, all right, let's see if you can do it, Bridget. Let's run home. Let's run home.
You did?
I did. I ran home and I was so proud of myself. And I was like, okay, too big a stride. Slow it down. Okay, too bouncy. Okay, let's bounce. I haven't run in like 3 years, but I ran home and it was almost a quarter of a mile. I was like, oh my God. And right now, like, not too sore.
Okay.
A little bit in the glutes. It's like, what is this? What is this jogging thing?
You were a little
doing?
puckered while you were running home.
It was. But anyways, I made it home. I can run. So it was a very rewarding feeling. Like, okay, if something really happened, I could actually run if I need to.
I'm surprised you didn't have an umbrella with you. To fend off an attacker or to prevent the rain. So maybe you should think about that next time.
I feel like the people in the neighborhood probably think that I'm on the spectrum or like there's something going on because like during the day I've got my big brim hat and I'm like, nobody can see me. Then we started riding bikes. Well, now I'm of the age of compression socks, but I can't just wear regular compression socks. So they're like bright blue and white polka dots.
Tell me you're not wearing those with shorts.
I wear those with shorts. And then here I am yesterday, like running in the rain. They're like, oh, her family let her out. Like, poor thing.
Bridget, if this wasn't live, the things I'd be saying to you right now.
It was classic. I was telling my mom, and my mom's like, "Oh my gosh, they poor thing, sweetie." She was just like, "Did anybody follow you home to make sure, like, oh, she made it home okay? She's okay."
They certainly weren't following you home because they thought you were cute.
But yeah, so needless to say, I can run. If there's ever an emergency.
Okay,
but only like a quarter of a mile.
As long as it's like 5 minutes. We're good.
That's it. Like there's no long distance running there.
Well, I'm happy that the tears were from the clouds and not from your face.
Exactly.
So I have to say, so after last week's episode, it was very heavy. And Bridget was an absolute wreck the whole time. I really had to carry her on my shoulders with all the tears.
Yeah.
And, I was getting ready to make fun of you, Obvi, and my phone starts pinging, all these people. Bridget was so beautiful on that episode. She's so beautiful when she cries. And I was like, Yeah, and they're like, please share this with her. And I was like, yeah, I'll be sure to pass that along.
Yes.
So Bridget's ugly cry is apparently just beautiful.
In your head.
In my head.
Yeah. You think my crying is ugly.
You know, I've never said ugly, but, you know, pull it together.
People love it.
I don't think we're going to cry in today's episode.
No.
So today's episode, we have a very special guest with us.
So exciting.
So today we're going to be talking about one of those things, and we were just discussing this at breakfast, you know. Shout out to Tina, who gave our table away again. Looking at you, Tina. And so we were just discussing how money is just such a taboo topic. So we are here to put a spotlight on that and learn, because I know I'm speaking for you, Bridget, as well as myself. We don't talk money. We just don't, right? Like, you keep that to yourself, and
you don't even talk money like amongst your own family, really.
Like it
stays in your house.
It does.
Yeah.
And so today we're gonna
talk about money.
We're gonna talk about it. So we are so excited to introduce Mari Peralta. She is a senior wealth advisor, and I'm gonna let her share all of the details. And at the end, we're gonna make sure that everyone knows how to get in contact with you and all of the things. So this woman is super interesting. Oh, Bridget, you had such a big smile. I thought you were like showing me I had food in my teeth. So, okay, good. I'm good.
You're
okay,
good.
cool.
You're good.
Cool.
You're good.
This woman, we have such a badass on the show today. So we met on the Make-A-Wish board that you have been the chair of. You are now the immediate past chair of the Make-A-Wish board, which is such a fantastic org. But I got to start working with you, and I was like, this woman is cool. And then I start learning more about, you know, her personal life a little bit, and then more on the professional side. And it's fun because this is just something I'm so uncomfortable with. Like, if you asked me about a 529, and my sister and I were just talking about this, like, what is that? Hey, Siri, what's a 529? Oh, yeah, 529 for sure. Numbers intimidate the crap out of me. So we are so glad that you are here today to kind of talk us through some of the things that we need to know as women. So Mari, thank you for being here. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. That was an awesome intro. Money is one of those topics that you are 100% right has become taboo in our society. We do such a disservice to one another in not talking about it and not making it something that we're open and honest about, and not just keeping it in your house. A lot of people just keep it in their head. They don't even talk to others in their own household about it, which is unfortunate. So thank you for the invite to come and talk a little bit about it. It's something I'd like to say I have some passion in doing it. And one of my biggest passions is providing education and a sense of better understanding so that you can make more informed decisions for yourself, because every circumstance is completely unique and different. Might be similar to somebody else, but it's not the same. It never is the same. For me as an individual, I was born and raised in Tucson, so I'm one of those rare birds known as a native.
Do you know that all three of us sitting at the table, all three born and raised?
Native vibe.
That's crazy.
We're like a flock.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay.
And yeah, I've spent my life getting to really be part of the Tucson community. I've had the very, very awesome experiences of traveling all over the world, but Tucson will always be home. And for that reason, I try to do my best to find things that are meaningful and ways to support the community in any way that I can. I started out at the U of A and took a little bit of a sharp left turn from my original path and ended up working at the Tucson Police Department for about 13 and a half years before leaving that agency and going
as
a different
lieutenant,
direction.
Not just working,
not
in the
there.
business side
like,
of
woman,
TPD.
Badass cop can climb a wall
Yeah.
and carry a gun, and you know we're gonna grill you about
And
that
do
later.
more than balance her checkbook.
She can, yes, exactly. Like I'm just so excited to pick your brain on all of that. You have such a solid background, and
it's a more unique background for sure.
Yeah.
I did not go to college to be a financial advisor, but I will say that much like their career in law enforcement was extremely rewarding. I mean, really, even though it's super tough, that you see people on their worst days, and really only their worst days. Because even if you pull someone over on a traffic stop,
it's a bad day.
It's not a good day for them. They are not happy to see you. Mm-hmm. So typically speaking, you really deal with the society when they're having a hard time. And yet it's still very rewarding because you get to help. You get to be a part of the solution. And now I get to do that too. But I get people's best days as well. And I get to help them solve through the not so great days, the everyday days, as well as the celebrations of their life. And there's nothing more rewarding than that. So,
man, I believe every word that you said. I mean, I find you to be a very genuine person. However, everything that you just said makes so much sense because it truly is like a long-term relationship that you're forming with your clients. It's not you talk about the celebrations and the life events, babies being born and marriages beginning and ending, and, maybe that's reason to celebrate. So It's pretty cool that you get to be with these people and guide them because it's such an important topic.
It is, and so here's kind of the cherry on the top of that proverbial ice cream sundae, right? The wondrousness of my job or my role every single day. But I now get to do that generational planning and start to encourage people to do what we haven't done for each other, and that is to have those conversations early on. And for me, I do it in my own household. I mean, my 5-year-old in kindergarten got one of those, kindergarten size writing tablets, and they started out the sentence, if I had $100, and then the kids were supposed to write in after that, what would they do with that $100? And my daughter says, a moment of pride, writes, I would save my $100. I was like, that's right, at 5, because I'm not afraid to talk to her about money, right? Mistakes and triumphs. It's really important to encourage that conversation early and often. And now getting to be a part of that for the other people that I get to guide and be a part of their lives is so awesome. I wouldn't give it up for anything.
Mm-hmm. How would you finish that sentence?
Well, I know how my kid, my kid would be like, I'd go to Walmart and buy 100 Hot Wheels. Like, he gets $2 and he's like itching. Like, Mom, could you take me to the store now? For what? And he's like, I don't know, but I have $2
but I need
and
to
I gotta spend it. So
yeah.
I'm clearly not having those conversations as I should be.
If I had $100, what would you buy? A pony.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you have no concept of money.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd buy 3 dozen eggs at this
$100.
point in my life, and there'd be $100.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. I think it's so important to talk to your children about the value of $1.
Yep.
And what that means in every day, what that means to play, what that means to save, all of that. Mm-hmm. I can honestly say that is not a conversation that I did well with.
Well, it's really, really important, too, to just express to them that it's okay to say, that's really expensive. We have to plan for that, or we can't afford that right now, or we have to think about, is that the best use of our money, right? And instilling those thought processes early and often really is meaningful. But it doesn't mean that you missed the boat if you didn't do it when you were a kid or didn't hear it when you were a kid. I have 60, 70, 80-year-old clients who are hearing it for the first time now, and it makes a world of difference in their world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I love, I kind of forgot about the whole kid angle too, which is a really important one. And maybe this is exactly the reason we're doing this is because my kid asked me the other day, like, well, how much did you pay for that? And I'm like, don't worry about it. That's not your business, sort of thing. And I'm starting to recognize we're doing kids a disservice by not having some of these conversations. And, I bought something the other day, and he's like, you spent $60 on that? And I'm like, well, it was a comforter, and that was actually a really good, that concept of like, what does stuff actually cost? And what should
Or if they want to know, like, how much was dinner?
Right.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about like, why is it so?
Right.
Why is it so taboo? Why
is
don't we
that?
share? What is it?
I think it's because we're taught to hide it, right? We're taught to not be comfortable talking about money, and we don't want to be judged, right? If we spent $60 on dinner, even from our own child, they're like, well, McDonald's costs $20. Why didn't we go to McDonald's instead? It's cheaper, right? And so you end up feeling this sense of trying to ward off that judgment, even from your own child or your own family early on. And nobody wants to feel like they made the right decision or the wrong decision. The wrong decision is what they're aiming to not do. But it is this just inherent, we just don't teach each other to be comfortable about it.
So what do we need to be doing? So let's dive like with the kid piece. What are appropriate conversations to be having with kids? Because probably, do you need to know how much, like my kid, how much did our house cost? How honest are we supposed to be?
I think it's also relative too. So that it's a great question to ask, but a 7-year-old is not going to have the concept of a $500,000 house the same way that a 15-year-old would have a concept of what amount of money that is, right? And because the next obvious question is, well, is that a lot? And again, it comes down to relative, right? Depending on where you're at, $500,000 house may be living large in the foothills, and in other places you might be able to own a studio apartment someplace, right? So it really is being able to open it up to say, what do you feel comfortable talking about? What are your baby steps? And some of that might be, well, it was pretty expensive, but let's talk about that houses are not something that you just save for a little bit of time. It's something that you save for a long time to be able to afford, and then you probably still have to keep paying for it for a period of time, and you need to make sure that your lifestyle can afford where you choose to live. And then instilling that and having that conversation, well, what does it mean to be able to afford? Well, this is the amount of money that I have every single month to work with. I need to be able to eat. I need to be able to live somewhere. We want to have lights and water. We have to be able to protect ourselves in case something happens to where we eat, or in case I can't do my job. I have to have some of those insurance coverages because they don't know the word insurance. They're like, what is that? But if you can just kind of spell it out. And then at the end of paying for those things that I absolutely have to have, here's what I have left. And with what I have left, this is the things that I can do with it. And here's how I can plan a little bit for the bigger things that we want to do. And then here's the day-to-day stuff that allows us to be able to go out to dinner and spend $60 on a meal instead of $20 at McDonald's.
So Mari, when like majority of your clientele, do you see a lot of couples coming in with financial planning and, hey, this is what I want to do for my future. How do I set myself up for my children? Or is it something, are you seeing more, females, single women coming in? And when we look at generationally, there is a shift in a lot more women having, the higher income positions in the family. And they are the ones that are, doing more of the finances. They are aware of what's coming in. Like how are you seeing that shift in your own work?
Yeah, so I would say that in the older generations that I work with, there is still much more of a male-dominated emphasis on they tend to be the breadwinners and the ones that handle the finances. And oftentimes when I'm introduced to the conversation, it's because the male half of the conversation had a moment of reality where they said, I'm statistically unlikely to outlive my spouse. And in doing so, I need to make sure that she is set up for success and has somebody that she has been able to communicate with that can take the time to explain things to her, that can provide her the education she needs to get an understanding of what we have and how to do what she needs to do with what we have, that can guide that process and that she can trust, right? We want to build this relationship of trust. And oftentimes the impetus is the male having this light bulb moment of, I'm probably not going to outlive my spouse. And the spouse comes in almost deer in headlights, and we really start from the ground floor and trying to provide some basic understanding and then build on their financial plan. And what would you like to do? What's meaningful to you in your life? Do you have family that you want to support? Do you want to leave a legacy? Do you have charitable inclinations? What are the things that drive you or that are important to you? But then if we fast forward to your point, quite a few of the mid-range in age or even the younger generations do have a little bit more income generating power. And whether it be, I have a number of widows that I work with, quite a few single women who were divorced either in their 30s, 40s, or even later in life. A lot of people that I work with are still in the front end of their career. And so they're trying to plan in advance. I really love working with the younger generations because they ask such great questions and they'll go off on tangents. I had a client the other day that told me, he's like, I went down a rabbit hole. I don't think I'm ever coming out again. I was like, all right, tell me about it. And he, went into a little, he's like, it's only $1,000, but I went and started doing some deep dive in crypto. I'm like, good on you. I appreciate that you are really interested and that he trusts me enough to tell me. He knows there's going to be no judgment. Just tell me what it is. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the females, it's really giving them a voice and a recognition that they can do this. And they should be able to ask whatever question comes to mind and know that with 100% confidence, they're going to get somebody that's going to explain it to them and take the time.
I think when I look at my group of friends, all the husbands.
I've told you I really don't like when you talk about other friends in front of me.
When I look at my group of friends, the husbands, these little day traders, I'm getting into this, and what about this? What about this? And I ask all the girls, do you guys do that? I have no clue. I have no clue what they're talking about. I have no clue what they're investing in. I have no idea even where to start. And that is a common question that that I always ask myself, God, where would I even start?
Where would you start?
Where do you start?
Do you, I mean, you and your husband, you guys are equal powerhouses. Do you know what's going on in your finances?
I have a high level overview, but he's the one that manages 99% of it. I know what everything is. I know where everything is. I know that piece, but if something were to happen to him tomorrow, it would be, it would be a shock to just kind of restart and okay, I need to get in this and do the work.
Yeah, and that's actually not that uncommon because typically one spouse, and more often than not, again, just historical norms, we've been taught that that's the man's job, mm-hmm. right? And unless a woman has taken the time to assert themselves or just insert themselves in that conversation about the money and the finances in their household, oftentimes we've been raised to defer to the male. And unfortunately, one of the biggest things I encourage is to allow women to know that they have a voice, and to something as simple as where do I start, mm-hmm. right? And, we do get back down to basics. And, I think we're all of the generation where we still had those home ec classes that they taught you how to balance a checkbook.
Not me, guys. Not me. Just saying, okay? That may have been...
Take this one, Christina. Yeah. Take this one. But it was. You balanced your checkbook.
Right. Yeah.
What is that? It's not even a thing.
Kids, what's a checkbook?
Yeah, they're
I know.
Huh?
Is it Venmo?
I haven't had a checkbook since 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I have to go do something, they're like, you just get a voided check. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
So the true story, the only reason why I had a checkbook was for Girl Scout cookies for the longest time. But I was like, all my friends, they sell Girl Scouts, but now you can, you can pay online.
That's hysterical.
Well, it's for charity. I'm going to write you a check. The little kids come and I'm going to write them a check.
I know. God forbid you had $6 in your purse, but yeah, write a check.
I don't carry cash. No, yeah. Girl Scouts, they got my checkbook.
Hey, listen, important priorities.
Exactly.
Well, so I think that's what's really interesting. And, Bridget and I talk about, we sometimes get on our woman hear me roar soapbox, but when you say, it's not really typical for women to assert themselves or insert themselves in these conversations, what would you say, like, if you could kind of boil it down, like any woman listening, whether you're married, single, whatever your sitch looks like, I mean, to really drill down, like, what are some of the things, we should all have 401ks, or like, what's the alphabet soup of the things we should know?
Yeah. So a couple of things, and not to steer towards the morbid, but one of the things that really does resonate most with people is just thinking about the reality of we all have an end, right? We all expire at some point. And if you're in a relationship, whether you're single or married or cohabitating or whatever your situation might be, you want to make sure that when you're no longer here, or the person that you care about is no longer here, that you have an understanding so that it is not an entirely separate blow to now have to deal with whatever's left, right? And wrap your head around it. Some people basically call it like their fire drill. And they'll say, listen, once a year, the male half, if it was predominantly the male that was running stuff, take a step back and make sure that the spouse has the ability to go and log into the bank accounts, know where to find the statements or to access the different things. Just once a year, re-update passwords, do all of those things that you should be doing for your own security anyway. But going and doing those things gives you a greater sense of confidence that if the worst were to happen, that you know how to go and access it. If you're single, though, you want to know that what you have set up is going to not be lost in some netherworld of the probate courts in dealing with your estate or dealing with whatever's in your asset base, or that it gets to those people and causes that matter the most to you, and how to get that set up. And it is your own variation of that fire drill type exercise every year, is to just sit there and say, are all my ducks in a row? Are the people that are important to me aware that this exists, right? And
so that's a conversation with, like, we should be talking to siblings, parents, whatever, like, hey, I have these accounts, should something happen? Because I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, just even my side would be a wreck. Like, I know that my kid is the beneficiary on most of my stuff, but like, I am so embarrassed. Maybe this is like a good accountability moment for a lot of people. I couldn't even tell you what the accounts are, who they're with, how much is in them. Like, I have just ignored. And so, that's probably not helpful.
So 2.5 years ago, my husband and I, we set up our trust for the first time. And while we were doing that, it's very sobering to realize that, okay, you are going to expire. That there is a, I don't want to die. There is a date where, this is all going to get transitioned over. Mm-hmm. And during that time, we're just like, wait, nobody would have access to anything. Like, if something were to happen to you, like, how do we go and shut everything down? How do we close everything out? And we did exactly that. The passwords, we wrote it all down. We have it in our,
even establishing something called a digital proxy. Somebody who, even while you're still alive, has the ability to go and access those things. Because a lot of people assume that their spouse or significant other is automatically allowed to access their online accounts, right? They need to pay their credit card bill so somebody can log on and do their credit card bill payment. No, you have to actually designate even your own spouse as having the ability to log in and do those kind of things. Log into your profile to be able to do those. You have to be able to name them as a digital proxy.
Okay, digital proxy.
I didn't know that one.
I've never even heard that.
Okay.
So we need to do that. So put digital proxy as numero uno.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, digital proxy is really important. Things as simple as people don't think about it, but on their bank accounts, their checking and savings accounts, naming a beneficiary on those accounts. Every bank has the ability to do so. You can name a beneficiary in the state of Arizona on your vehicles. If you own a vehicle in the state of Arizona, there's a beneficiary title form that you can fill out with Arizona Department of Transportation to have it on file that if you die, that automatically the ownership of your vehicle transfers to another individual, whomever you name.
Okay. Bridget,
Lessons learned.
can I be your
I was hoping to
beneficiary
be
of your car?
yours.
Well, I like your car.
I like yours.
Okay, so we'll name each other.
Massagers.
We'll name each other.
Okay.
I get yours, you get mine.
I don't know if my kids will really go with that one.
Come on.
They all drive. Sorry, Christina.
Well, they all have their own cars. What about me?
My
All right.
beneficiary of my, yes.
Yeah.
got
Okay, well,
I'm
this
writing
conversation didn't exactly go as planned.
So anyways, Mari, continue.
No, there's a lot of things that people just and you mentioned you had a trust set up. So that is one thing, is having an estate plan in place and looking at it every 2 to 3 years. And I know you're like, but I feel like I just did it, because it feels like you just did it. But a lot changes in even 2 years
That's
or
true.
3 years. And I would assume that you, when you did this trust creation or the drafting of the trust, you also did other important documentation like a living will, healthcare directives, power of attorney directives. A lot of places will not accept those if they haven't been refreshed or renewed. It's been more than 2 or 3 years. So they kind of force you to go and do it. And the worst part is let's say you had a power of attorney designated, someone that can speak for you if something were to happen to you. You're still here. You're just going to be down for the count for a little bit. You want that person to be able to step in and make decisions on your behalf or to help with those decisions. But it was put in place 5 years ago, 7 years ago, because you didn't update it. They're like, oh, well, you need to go get another one. Well, how the hell am I going to get another one? This person can't sign for themselves right now, right? There's no notary on the planet is going to put their stamp on that. So it's a reminder to go and look at it every couple of years and make sure that it's up to date.
And is there a minimum age? Because I feel like, I had the epiphany the other day that I am middle-aged now at 40. Like, I'm being dead serious. I did, like, I know. Some reason in my head, it's like, you don't have to think about this stuff until you're 60. But all of these things that you're talking about, we should be doing those now, right? Like, is there an age that's too young to do this?
No such thing.
Okay.
No, basically, as soon as you have a penny to your name and you're an adult, you need to have something in place because, again, life happens. We accumulate stuff. And along our paths, that stuff, if something were to happen to us, should be designated to go somewhere. Now, the state of Arizona will step in for you if you have nothing in place, but it takes them a while to get to it. And the default is, if you're young enough and not unmarried, they're going to default probably to your parents or your siblings. That's kind of first in line. But everything else, if you want to have a say in what happens to it, then have a say in what happens to it and take the time to write it out or to spell it out. And in Arizona, at least, we actually have the ability to do something called a holographic will, which means that you can write with your own hand. It has to be in your own hand, signed and dated. It does not have to be notarized. It just has to be witnessed. And that is a legal document. Now, I wouldn't necessarily encourage that. I would go the little bit more formal will route at the bare minimum, but at least it's valid here and it gives a framework for others to follow behind should something happen to you.
I think that's so important. My father-in-law was recently diagnosed with cancer, and he's living with his diagnosis now. But it was really eye-opening to all of us to realize that, like as you're saying, that based on certain states, these things have updated, laws have changed. Being able to walk in with a power of attorney that's been dated how long ago, or walking in with a will that was dated 20 years ago is not the same as all the documentation that's needed now, and just how much you would be spending, or just time and effort and probate, because everything hasn't been updated and documented the way that the law needs it to be.
No, and it is one of those really protecting not just yourself for when in unfortunate circumstances happen where you're still here. You just can't do for yourself. So you're protecting your interests in that way by giving direction of how you want to have happen and who's going to make those decisions for you. But then also when you're not here anymore, protecting your decisions and what you wanted to have happen also, right? And that's where those estate planning documents are so unbelievably important, it kind of comes back to the role that I serve is I'm essentially the person that coordinates all of those things, right? I'm good at investments, but I also rely very heavily on an investment team behind the scenes that pushes all the buttons on behalf of my clients. I just help have the conversations with the clients to then determine which investments are best for them. I'm the one that helps them to determine, do you have an estate plan in place? When was it last reviewed? Let's get some resources to make sure that it's still up to snuff, and if any changes should be made to the language that's in there so that it is staying current with estate plan law. I'm the one that looks at insurance coverages and makes sure that those kind of things are in line. I look at their tax situation, right? And say, okay, is everything in alignment where you're getting the best benefit out of your taxes? And those are all, even the estate planning, people are like, what does really that have to do with finances other than deciding where my money goes? It is all integrated. It's all part of the same big puzzle, and really having a person that you can trust that's going to take them and help provide the education and go back to bite-sized pieces and not throw it all at you at once is so unbelievably important. And finding that person that you feel like you can have real, honest conversations with is probably the first step in that equation, is how do I do this?
Man, I feel it's so funny listening to all of this because I am just sitting here thinking what an absolute shit show my finances are in terms of like the disorganization of all of this. And everything you're saying is making me want to just get on Excel right now and start making a spreadsheet of accounts and people. And like, I have been talking about a will and all of these things for years. And have I done anything?
Well, you're
No.
middle-aged now.
I know. You know, my sister made a crack at me the other day, my younger sister, and like an old joke. And I said, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to be Bridget. So all the harassment, it hurt my heart a little. So I felt like a ping of empathy for you.
Do you realize how mean you've been?
Yeah, totally. But I'm not going to stop. So don't get.
Exactly.
Thank you, David. Right?
Wow, Christina. Wow, saying.
Well, I'm going to be texting your husband later and making sure that you two are talking about money.
We do. I don't have a problem talking about money with my husband.
All right.
That's fine. But it is something that, and it's just recently, because all of our kids are over the age of 18, that we're transitioning that conversation to, you guys are adults, you guys are people, and I need to start talking to you like an adult. Mm-hmm. And, you know, having those financial conversations, making sure that they're putting enough away for the rainy day fund, right? Like that was all you knew.
I actually don't do the rainy day fund, right? It's important to have, but
yeah.
I call it the contingency fund. It's so much more important to recognize that there are some opportunities that come up in life sometimes where you can take that trip, and instead of it costing $2,000, if you can cover it in cash right now, it's going to cost you $1,000. That's what a contingency fund is for. All 4 tires of your car blow out at one time. That's what a contingency fund is for. So you have access to those monies right away without just having to go into debt consistently over and over again. Those are for those unexpected, smaller scale type of expenses that you need to be able to access. And a lot of people say, well, then I need that immediately accessible in savings. Savings is not a bad vehicle at all, but a normal savings account is probably going to earn you 1/10 to 1/4 of 1%. That's just what you get, right? You open an account at Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, you name it. Their normal savings account, way less than 1% on an earnings rate. What used to be high yield savings was about 1%, a little bit over 1%. Now you can still be liquid in money market funds and be earning 3 times that. Somewhere in the 3 to 4% range is pretty typical for a money market account, and you can still access those funds within about 2 business days. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm cringing on the inside because I know that I have way too much money in my savings account that should not be there. But I am just too ignorant or too whatever, maybe just lazy. I don't know. How much money should we be keeping in savings account versus what we should be putting into an investment account like what you're talking about? You still can access it. You're not going to get penalized.
Yeah. So those money market accounts, think of them as like a super savings account, right? They're really you could almost have everything in there because in today's day and age, what's the reality that you're going to need more than probably a couple $1,000s immediately accessible? And do most people have that immediate accessibility in their checking account? Hopefully, maybe if you've done some planning, or at least a small savings account where you can just shuffle it over to checking and pay with your debit card or whatever else. Worst case scenario, not everybody's in the circumstances where they can qualify to get a credit card, but in the worst case scenario, you have to put it on the credit card in the moment, and then a couple of business days later, you free up some cash and just pay off that credit card balance, right? So you don't accrue the interest. There are ways to work around it where you can do that. I'd like to treat those money market accounts as kind of like just super savings accounts, because the earnings rates are so much higher, but you're not taking on any more risk. And they are essentially a cash equivalent. And what's appropriate is it really just depends on your lifestyle, right? Like if it's you as a single individual and you're covering all your bills and your bases, you have a stable employment, you could probably do somewhere between that 3 to 6 months of just basic expenses covered in that side account, right? And at least it's earning more than a normal savings account would earn. If you feel more comfortable having it in a normal savings account, great, do that too. But that normal 3 to 6 months expenses is generally a good starting point. Now, if you work in one of those fields where there's a high level of turnover, you might bump it up, right? Somewhere between 6 and 12 months, because you just want that fallback for what if I'm out of work for an extended period of time. That's probably the biggest threat to those that are still working is something happens. I either lose my job, there's layoffs, there's something in the world that makes it so that I can't return to work immediately. I need to have the ability to continue to pay my rent, my mortgage, buy my groceries, and cover those basic expenses without going into significant debt.
Okay.
That's important.
3 to 6 months. I mean, Bridget, you might get caught in the rain again and have to run a half a mile.
I know.
You could be on short-term disability. So, I think you need to think about this, okay?
I will, and I'm going to think about that during our break.
As
and
your
then we can
BST.
come back to Mari about our financial literacy here.
Wah,
All right,
wah.
Dave, take us away before I throw water at Christina.
In Marana, community isn't just where we live, it's who we are. And at the heart of it all is the Marana Chamber of Commerce. We are building a thriving community through connected business leadership. We start the month bright and early with Marana Mornings, sparking real conversations and connections. We celebrate growing networks at our 4th Tuesday Mixers, hosted in exciting spaces. We unite visionaries and leaders at Impact Marana, driving meaningful progress together. We look ahead with Marana Insights, hearing directly from regional voices about what's next for our town. And we serve through the passion of our board of directors and ambassadors, creating a culture of belonging through service and leadership. Because of our members, we're not just doing more, we're becoming more. Together, we're shaping the future of Marana. We are the Marana Chamber of Commerce.
On Backseat Thriver, we dive into the messy, meaningful moments of life, especially parenting and mental health, because raising kids today takes more than love. It takes support, insight, and sometimes a little help. That's where LNC Therapy makes a difference. A compassionate mental health private practice proudly serving the Tucson community. They specialize in supporting children, teens, and young adults through challenges like depression, anxiety, ADHD, anger management, grief, and more. With a team of experienced, heart-forward therapists, LNC Therapy offers personalized care that meets your family where they are, whether that's in person or via telehealth, because every young mind deserves a safe space to grow. LNC Therapy, supporting Tucson families one session at a time. Visit them at 7493 North Oracle Road, Suite 135, or reach out and visit them on their website at hello@lndtherapy.com. Now accepting new clients.
You're listening to the Live the Dream Media Network, Arizona's premier live podcast studio and online radio.
All right, we're back with all of our burning questions. I can see the fire lit in Bridget. She's got questions.
I have so many questions.
I have so many questions.
I do. I feel as I say, financial literacy, I am financially illiterate. Like that, that's where I come back to. But like when we think of starting from ground zero, I mean, not that we have a large population of young people listening to this podcast, but there's a few out there. There's a few, bright kid, not you, Christina, not you. There's some young whippersnappers out there, but where do you start? So as you're talking about a money market account, like what does that even mean to somebody that has, let's say, even $10,000 in their savings? Like can you start that?
Is that enough to start?
Is that enough to start?
Yeah,
like where do you start?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I will just throw in one kind of caveat is you don't have to be young, right? You can be middle-aged. You can be older. You can be an older generation. You can be retired. You can still take advantage of these tools that exist out there. But I love two things. One, I love the fact that you wanted to pull out a spreadsheet because I live in spreadsheets. My brain works in spreadsheets. And so I just like little cheer squad. Yay, spreadsheets.
Oh, woohoo, freaking the sheet.
Right?
Yeah.
Spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay.
But I also so appreciate the honesty of that question of where do I start and what is that? What am I asking for? So thank you. So back it up. There are different types of accounts that exist out there that are basically fall into two categories, retirement accounts and non-retirement accounts. I'm going to ignore for a second things like education savings accounts or health savings accounts. But for the average everyday person, you either have retirement monies or non-retirement monies. You can have money market funds in either of those. Typically speaking, if we're talking the savings vehicle version, you're going for the non-retirement type of accounts, and it has different terminologies. Most commonly, it'll be called a brokerage account. It's just the terminology that the financial world uses to give an explanation or give a title to that type of account. If you're at a bank, banks sometimes call their money market accounts money market accounts. They just use that terminology to simplify it. I actually appreciate that, and I wish that was ubiquitous across the entire financial world because it would make it much more clear as to what exactly it is. Here's the biggest difference, though, between a brokerage account and a money market account. A money market account is really only for money market funding or funding with money market investments. A brokerage account, you can do way more than that. You could have stocks, you can have bonds, you can have alternative investments, you can have a bunch of other things, not just money market accounts or money market funds, but you can absolutely use it for solely holding money market funds if you want to. I do that for myself rather than a normal savings account because the firm that I work with is open architecture, meaning we don't just work with one custodian, and that custodian word means the bank that holds your assets in cash, your investments in your cash. I intentionally have accounts with different custodians so that I can see from the client's perspective what they experience when they log into their online profile. So one of them, I intentionally just have a brokerage account that I treat as my savings account. And I just hold money market investment in it, and it just earns interest. For about the last year, that interest rate has been around 4%.
Oh my gosh.
Interest rates just went down, so it's now a little under 4%. And it's expected to continue to go down a little bit more by the end of this year. So I'm gauging that it'll probably be somewhere between 3 and 3.25% by the end of this year. And I'm still okay with that because if I had that same amount of money at my bank, I'm not going to be earning anywhere near 3 or 4% anymore. And it's just cash that I can access whenever I need to. So money market itself is just a fund or a mechanism, an intentional investment that you make that says, I'm going to get this essential rate of return on cash. And it gets treated as a cash equivalent. The other benefit to it is they're typically FDIC insured, much like the cash in the bank would be, right? Whether it be a checking or savings account up to the federal limits of $250,000 per individual or $500,000 per married couple. So each entity, so each bank has that limit. So you could put up to, as a single individual, $250,000 in a brokerage account and 100% of it being in money market, earning 3 to 4%. And that's just, think of it as kind of the fallback. That's your super savings account. You don't have to intermix that account with other investments like stocks or bonds or any of the other alphabet soup worth of things that you could invest in. But it is one of those things where it's a fairly easy starting point. And a lot of people say, okay, well, now what? Where do I go? Right? I mean, I'm always a resource and I do a ton of pro bono. Anybody could call me and I would tell them, okay, do you have a preference for Schwab, Fidelity, LPL, Pershing, Vanguard? Who do you like, right? Who do you feel comfortable with? A lot of people are like, oh, well, my 401k is through Fidelity, so I kind of already been on the platform. Great, let's get on their website and open yourself a brokerage account and fund it. Link it to your bank account and just put some money in there.
It's that easy?
You can start with $5, probably less than $5. You can just open the account and not fund it for a while if you want to. It doesn't really serve its purpose if you do that, but you don't have to have a minimum account balance to get it opened.
I have to say, I'm so impressed with you right now. We've never really had professional conversation like this in your expertise. You have made this so digestible that I am actually following what you're saying and understanding what you're saying. I've met with, over the years, just different financial advisors, and I feel like I just glaze over so quickly because I don't understand any of the words they're saying, and then I'm too embarrassed to be like, what does that mean? Or what's that number? Or I'm just like, And I think a lot of
notes,
us,
going back and looking them up.
Exactly. Or just like, just shamelessly nodding. So I really appreciate that because I think this can be very overwhelming, and to the point where you're like, forget it. I'm just going to leave my money in my savings account. I'm earning nothing on it, but like it's easier than all the work. But this sounds very manageable.
Very manageable. And I so appreciate that honesty too, because most people wouldn't ever admit that. And I get that all the time. And thank you for that compliment. But it is probably one of my biggest, impacts, right? Is being able to provide it in language that you can understand and make it so that I get a sense of how do I educate you in a way that you actually can get? Because sometimes the words that I use will be perfect for you, but not great for Bridget. And so part of my role is kind of reading the body language and seeing the deer in the headlight look and then saying, you know what, let's back it up a little bit. Let's do this. And some of the messaging, because I talk about really complex strategies, some stuff in my day-to-day life, but I really make an effort to make it in digestible terminology that people can wrap their heads around. When I'm talking about a strategy where I'm like, we're going to have cash sitting over here in a money market, and I'm going to have that cash backing up a promise to buy when things go on sale. If things never go on sale, that's okay. Because you made that promise, you're going to earn more income. And if you do have to buy when things go on sale, that's what the cash was sitting on the sidelines for, right? And so if I can use that kind of explanation and help people understand what exactly is this strategy, and I actually like that because I'm really afraid of what the market's doing right now, and I don't want to screw up my plan in making sure that I have money in the future, then maybe a portion of it should be in something like that. But I want to make sure I understand it, and I want them to understand it.
Mm-hmm. Man, I don't know. I feel smarter right now. How about you?
Do you feel smarter?
I mean, like fake smarter, because I am going to go home and...
She was just like, I saw that deer in headlights. Let me bring it back a few steps.
Yeah, which I need that.
So important.
You
start throwing acronyms at me, FDIC, IRAs,
Yeah. Well, the FDIC insurance is something that really matters a lot to people because it's the protection for if the bank collapses, that the government backs that deposit. Meaning you put money at that bank and then that bank closes their doors. You don't want a savings and loan debacle that we had decades upon decades ago and people can't get their money. I mean, that freaks us all out, right? If you cannot get access to your resources. So how does the government create a mechanism to ensure that? That's what FDIC is, right? They sit there and say, you get that much.
See?
Yeah.
Explosion. Smarter already.
Should we talk about money markets versus Roths and IRAs and 529s? I mean, when you're kind of looking at I was about to say like your basic average family, like I'm not even sure anyone could define what that is anymore. But your most typical, I mean, at the bare minimum, if we've got young kids or, middle school, high schoolers, what would you say are some of the top things, like every family should have, in a perfect world, every family should have a what?
Yeah, no. So, I mean, first and foremost, estate plan and insurance coverages. If you have young kids, the biggest threat is making sure that you can continue to pay for life, whether you're alive or dead. I mean, if you get disabled and can't work, you got to still be able to pay for your life, right? And if you pass away, you need to make sure that your kids, that their lives continue to be provided for until they're old enough to be able to provide for themselves. And so those insurance coverages, estate planning is huge. When it comes to the money side, though, like what do I do with my actual dollars? The savings account component or that contingency plan is really important to have to make sure that you can have fun, but you can also, those rainy day things that happen, you have the coverage without necessarily having to go deep in debt. For those that have already accumulated some debt, I mean, obviously that's not perfect world scenario. It's addressing that debt first. And there's a difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt is typically collateralized debt, like your mortgage, right? Your house backs that debt. If something were to happen, yes, the bank can take your house, but you're not still left holding the bag owing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Bad debt is more like credit card debt or consumer debt. That kind of debt you want to pay off sooner because typically you're paying much higher interest rates and your investments are never going to be able to keep pace with the high interest rates. So you can't even make the argument of, well, I'm earning 30% on my investments and I'm paying 30% in interest, so it's a wash. It doesn't really work out that way. I mean, I guess in theory you could be, but if you have that crystal ball to be also always making 30% in earnings on your investments, you figured it out, right? I don't have that crystal ball and I don't think anybody actually does. But when you look at having a contingency account, if there's discretionary funds outside of that, then it really does speak to what's important to you. Things like college accounts, 529 funding, may not be for everybody, but they really make sense for a lot of people because it gives you the option of choice down the road. If you have a younger child, you don't know if they're going to not be well suited for college down the road, but you want to at least potentially create a circumstance where they can be, because worst case scenario, they end up having to pay a little bit of tax on those monies in the future, but at least they have the capacity to use them in a tax-free manner if they did go pursue higher education. And now with recent updates in the last decade or so to 529 rules, they can actually use them even before college. If they have other, post-secondary education is a big part of it, but before that, if they go to private school or they have some of these other costs, it's capped at about $10,000 a year, but you can still use it for those other costs. In the future, they could also convert some of those monies to be Roth assets. Again, there's a cap on the amount that can be converted, and you have to have the account in place for a certain number of years in order for that ability to convert to Roth. But that's one of the most recent tax law changes that updated that allows for conversion of 529 monies to be Roth monies for the benefit of the kid, right? And so you kind of give them a leg up in some of that retirement planning with a Roth account. Roths are great. If you can stomach paying the taxes early and done now, then the rest of that growth in the account, as well as when you start to pull from that account in retirement, is all tax-free. So if you can kind of front load yourself with a tax-free bucket of money to be able to pull from and have it be part of the balance in the future, it's amazing. It's an amazing tool to use. On top of that, it's an amazing gift to give your heirs if you can gift them Roth monies over traditional IRA monies, because the IRS does force you to empty out those accounts unless you're a spouse. So if you're a child and you received money from your parents and it's in a retirement account, whether it be a Roth or a traditional IRA, and IRA just stands for individual retirement account. So if you are the receiving end.
I didn't even know that. IRA?
I knew that one.
Yeah.
I knew that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you're on the receiving end, you have to empty the account in 10 years. If you're a high earner, right, and your parents did well and you got a good job and now you're earning a couple $100,000 a year, and all of a sudden one of your parents passes and you're now forced to take a big chunk on top of that, it bumps you into higher tax brackets and whatnot. Whereas on the Roth side, now it's all tax-free money. you have to take it out in 10 years, but you're not paying taxes on any of it. And you can just let it ride in that account for the entire 10 years if you want to, and then take it out. I mean, there's a lot of freedom and flexibility that you pass on to your heirs if you're able to fund it in a Roth.
I feel like we're just scratching the surface with Mari right now.
Oh, totally.
Like my brain is going like 100 miles a minute of all the different things that we can discuss, and I know we're at time.
This went
way too fast.
This went so fast, and it was fun because it was so technical, but like not difficult to process. Like I feel excited right now. I'm literally going to go home and hop on my computer and start knocking some of this stuff out, because we should know this. Like, just even thinking about the idea that I could be like, yes, I have a 401k and a blah, 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 blah. That makes me feel kind of cool.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You can have those conversations at your social gatherings.
That's right. Let's talk about your 529.
Let's talk about your Roth investments.
Oh my gosh.
Your day trading talk. I'm going to chat GPT day trading talk.
Right? Oh my gosh.
Just so you walk into a conversation and be like, did you know?
Exactly. What about the Dow Jones? That percentage?
How about that NASDAQ? What is it?
See, we know something.
See, I mean, we know the words.
We
but
know the words.
Tell me what they mean. Oh, we're out of time. I guess we can't go into that.
Bad. Okay, next time.
Yeah. So tell our listeners, if any part of this conversation resonated and they're like, okay, I want to take control of this. I want to do this. How do they reach out to you? Where are you found, and what does that look like? You do a consultation with someone, see if you're a good fit.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the best things about my firm is that we work with the entire gamut of people wherever they're at in their lives. We pride ourselves on the fact that we don't have an account minimum, right? So you don't have to have $1 million or more to work with us. And really, we're here to help as many people as we possibly can. Does it always make sense to become a formal client? No, not necessarily. And that is part of the conversation is your circumstance such that it warrants us bringing value to the table, or can it provide you some guidance and you can self-implement, right? You can do some of those things on your own, and then we'll revisit it again 6 months, 12 months down the year and give you some time to kind of do some of these things and ask questions. We're always a resource. So reaching out to me, I'll always answer. I try to put this communication out there that if you send me an email, a text, any kind of putting it out into the ether that, hey, I want to talk to you, and you haven't received a response to me, and this is both the clients that I work with and the people that are not clients yet, is if you haven't received a response from me within a business day, usually it's within a couple hours at most, to be honest, but if you haven't received a response, there's only one reason why, is because I never received it. So, and that is really, I have to instill that confidence that people are going to get responses because they deserve it. Right? It's the polite and the respectful thing to do, is to at least acknowledge that you receive that communication. And so for us, my business phone number, my business email address, they all come to my phone. So even though some days I do work from home, I have the ability to do that. I also have an associate that works here locally. Our office is just right at Pima Canyon and Ina. There's a complex in there, and quite a few different financial firms. Ironwood Dermatology is in there. There's a U of A medical office section in there also. But we're pretty accessible. We're, in that corridor between Ina and Oracle and like the Law and Cantata. We're right kind of in the middle there. And, for the most part, while we're not typically driving down to the Vail area or far north Marana, we'll always have a Zoom meeting. We'll always have a call. We'll do text messages or emails just to be able to at least, get the ball rolling and answer some basic questions, and then see if it warrants a further conversation. In those further conversations, it's usually 10 to 15 minutes to just get a gauge of what are you looking for, and does it warrant us spending some time and really deep diving into how we can help.
Awesome. So we're going to post your contact info on our site, so we'll get all of that up there. But I'm ready to write you a check. So let's go.
Let's do this.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here today. I think this was insanely helpful. Just even, you said you're illiterate, and I know you like books with pictures in them, so
Stickers, too.
Stickers too, yeah, you can color. But I feel like I definitely learned some very basic stuff, and that feels very good to me right now. I feel like I'm walking out a little smarter.
I agree. With the task.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a little list.
A little hit list.
Yep.
It
So
makes
go
my
get
day.
your digital proxy.
Yes.
Go
Number one.
go check all of your accounts, and I gotta look at some brokerage accounts.
Yep.
See how I just put that
like
into
that.
a
Good
sentence?
job. Good job, Christina.
It's all because of you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mari, for being with us today.
All right, listeners, hope it was valuable, and we will see you next week.
All right. Thrive on, besties. Thrive on.
Bye.